Hi and welcome along to AFTV. Now, in this video, we wanted to talk about the thing that's been afflicting the whole world. It's the coronavirus. It doesn't matter where you are in the world right now. It seems to have taken its toll. We're in lockdown here in the UK. We've seen places like India under lockdown. We see what's happening right across Europe, right across the world. Over there in America, the coronavirus seems to be hitting there as well. And I thought to myself, let me get on a couple of experts. I watched the video that they did the other day talking about the coronavirus, and it was brilliant. And I remember I met these two gentlemen when I was over in the US last summer when Arsenal were touring. They're massive Arsenal fans, but also they know their business. I've got two very special guests here, Dr. Amsu and Mr. Breaks. Guys, thank you very, very much for coming on today. I saw the video that you guys did the other day. It was absolutely brilliant, where you were sort of giving us some of the facts on coronavirus. And I said, I've got to get these guys on, because I remember speaking to you guys when I met you in Atlanta in the summer. Now, just before we do touch on that, Arsenal, we were starting to pick up. We were doing all right until this coronavirus.
It's sabotage. They've done sabotage us, man.
Criminal, mate. Criminal.
We were picking up. Liverpool was starting to head down. Let me tell you something. When Liverpool lost to Watford, it felt like we won the treble. Man, that was... You don't understand.
That was a great day, my friend. You know,
the unbeaten run was intact.
No, it was. You don't understand. That's almost like finishing fourth. You know, when we weren't doing anything, people used to make fun of us. But you don't understand that Invincibles. We're the only one with a gold trophy. So all you Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, whoever you are, gold. There's only one gold trophy.
Do that, mate. Thank you.
Did it surprise you guys how quickly everything just happened over here in the UK? Because obviously you guys are based over there in America, but how quickly? I mean, it started off with, you know, really with Arteta getting the coronavirus. That's when the Premier League woke up and said to themselves, hey, we got to stop this thing right now.
You know what? It was like, why us? Why did it have to go catch Arsenal first? You see what I'm saying? It's like Arteta's doing such a great job. You know what I mean? We were skeptical over Arteta.
Well, you know,
like before we got what's his name?
Emery.
Can we forget his name now?
Yeah.
Before we got Emery,
good evening.
We was like, no way, Arteta. Nah, man. Man was about to go into it. We was waiting to see what you guys' reaction would have been, especially Troops, right? But Arteta has come in and he's done the business. We ain't lost the game yet.
Yeah.
Well, we ain't lost in the Premier League yet.
Well, the only one beaten team
not this year. Yeah.
Technically. So, you know,
course, he was that first high-profile
case
in the league. You know, or manager, person involved in football to get it, and that really sent shockwaves when he got it.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And it's funny. So it was the Olympiacos game, right? So them coming into contact with the Olympiacos manager or the owner, they reckon that, you know, he would have contracted it either in Greece or in fact when they came over. Now it's very interesting how, you know, we talk about this all the time, and how, you know, the Premier League and football in general, so many people go to the games, right? It interacts. So many people are you know, affected by football, that it was the epicenter for this, right? And I think it was the Arteta case, and then, you know, the FA shutting down the league. First of all, they were postponing 1 or 2 games, and next thing you know, it was like all Fs, all postponed, all Ps across the board. That really permeated into across the country, and I think Boris, you know, probably picked up on the FA. So the FA probably been at the forefront of, you know, really setting up systems to, you know, curb mass, you know, crowding and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. I think football, and of course Arsenal, at the forefront of that. I don't know if we take credit for it, but, you know, we acted quickly. Arsenal acted quickly. So
yeah, I think we need to forfeit this season and just start afresh. Give Liverpool their certificate of participation.
There you go.
Obviously,
asterisk.
And then we just move on.
Robbie, what do you think about this? They were saying that they were thinking about handing Liverpool the title, right? Now, technically, you know, odds are they would have won it, right? 2 games left, and, you know, they'd have to complete, you know, capitulation not to win it. However, what does that do for teams in 5th, in 4th, in 6th? You know, teams near the bottom. If
I think the season. The season has to be finished.
It has to be finished.
It has to be.
There has to be some way that we try and get this season finished. But I want to ask you guys this because, as I said, I saw your video and you guys had a lot of, you know, obviously you're a doctor and you guys got a lot of knowledge on this thing.
Right.
Do you think we're now into what we're in now? We're coming towards the end of March.
Right.
Can you see us getting over this coronavirus thing and being able to complete the season by, say, August?
Well, what it is, there's two terms. There's de jure and de facto, right? There's what the virus is actually doing, and then there's what they're saying it can do. And what they're saying it can do or may do is what is making everybody paranoid, right? Which is why it's better to be safe than sorry. So let me ask you this question, and I ask everybody who I know: do you know anybody who has become sick or has actually died? Do you personally know anybody?
I don't know. I don't know anyone who's died, but I do know 2 people who've become sick from the coronavirus. Yeah.
All right.
It is quite bad over here in the UK at the moment and rising.
Right. And what's the demographic? What's their age? What's the race? And you know, what do they have any pre-existing conditions?
Yeah. Well, one of the 2 people that I know that became sick of it, they're both not that old. They're both, I'd say, mid-30s. Both healthy. Both, you know, I was both on both accounts. I was very shocked when I heard that they got it.
Right. And are they what their race? Are they black? Are they white?
What one was Asian and one was white.
Okay. And because these are statistics. When it comes to medicine and science, that's where we become racial. When we're dealing with research, it's a racial thing. You know,
What do you mean by that?
It's racial, not racist. It's racial, meaning there's so many studies out there, you know, thousands, millions of studies that are out there dealing with things like, you know, for example, diabetes by race, high blood pressure by race, how it affects different ethnic groups, racial groups, you know, by age, by gender. So these things can become polarized when you're dealing with statistics. So when we're gathering data, because one of the things that's under threat is the economy, right? So if you have a demographic that is low risk, who do not tend to have, who are asymptomatic, don't have symptoms, they're not coughing and whatever, and they may have been infected and they get over it quickly without mildly, right? These are the people who can be utilized as workforce, while the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions stay isolated. So it doesn't have such an impact on the economy, because there's all the young people are out of school, young people who may even have, you know, come into contact with it are asymptomatic. So there has to be a decision from the stats that we have. Can these people go back into work immediately? Can, you know, if athletes, especially athletes are superheroes, right? They're superhumans. Their fitness levels are so high up there that they're unlikely to be affected as bad, you know, even mildly. They're unlikely to be affected, to show symptoms. So in that case, can games, you know, Olympics is next year.
That's what they've cancelled that already.
Yeah.
You know, I had money on it with this guy. I was about to take this guy's money in the Euros, right? On France, you know what I mean? I'm a big France fan, but that's another story. But you know, these are with research stats, the correct figures, the demographics, decisions can be made, positive moves can be made. Because right now everyone's shit scared. And everyone is shit scared because here's what the virus can do. And some people, the more information they get, is the more paranoid they get, is the more they, you know, stay back and whatnot, where it may not be that bad. And we know it's a serious virus. It can kill. So yes, it's serious, but how many people it will affect, because we're hearing about all the numbers. Italy's gone up. Italy's got the oldest population. They got the largest elderly population in the world. That's why the numbers are so high in Italy. But we're not hearing about people who were tested positive who have made recovery. They're not throwing those stats out there. So we're very cognizant of how information is being disseminated. And is it being disseminated in a fair way, in a most substantial way to get information out there, or is it being biased to where stay indoors? And certain companies have gone through the roof.
Yeah, the situation here in the UK is we are being told now to stay indoors, and this is like our first week of it. We're under lockdown. You know what I mean? You can go out to get your get your groceries. You can go for one walk a day, but basically you got to stay inside. In India, places like that, right around the world, people are being told to stay inside for the next, 3-4 weeks. So that's
India's 21 days.
I saw some video from Punjab where they were busting up man. And this is the thing.
So how are we gonna? How is it? How can we possibly get football back on? I mean, can you see that happening? I'm talking from the football's point of view right now. Can you see football getting back on? We're going to stay here in the UK, for instance, behind closed doors now for the next 3 weeks.
Right.
That will slow it down, but it's not going to get rid of it completely. So how are we going to get football back?
Well, the thing is, all right, so we want to create a situation called slow pandemic. Right? That's what all the medical institutions around the world and the World Health Organization, the CDC, and all the other establishments, they want a slow pandemic, meaning slow the spread of this pandemic while more research is being done. They have to understand the nature of this virus. And with every day that passes, all the medical institutions, the virologists, the immunologists, all of these guys we have to give them a round of applause for how well they're all working together. It's unified the world of science on sharing information. So while this information is being shared, while they understand it, this is why self-isolation, the voluntary quarantine, social distancing and things like that, to slow it down while information is being
gathered
and disseminated. So I'm very hopeful from what I've researched that it's not as bad as they think it can be, from especially in the hood.
Yeah, but let's, because Robbie, just your question. So what options does the FA have, right? So think about this now. So you've got teams across the country, they've got a roster, 23 players, 30 players, whatever it is, right? They've got their starting 11. So it may come to a point where they say, okay, look, every team in the country, list out your starting 11, list out everyone in the starting 11 who has tested positive for COVID-19, right? Can you field your starting 11? Then they can say, okay, yeah, most teams you can field your starting 11. They may even allow you to get in a couple of ringers or something. Hear me out now. And then they may say, okay, look, we may play some games behind closed doors. So we may not finish out the season in packed stadiums, but there's an argument, why couldn't they finish the season behind closed doors with the best starting 11 they could start with, if not the full starting 11? Because, I mean, across the country, how many starting 11 players have tested positive for COVID-19? 5, 6, maybe. So there's an argument. The teams may say, look, let's get together. We want to finish the season. We will field the best 11 we can, right? Play behind closed doors, and let's get, 5, 6 games done. Or maybe all of the games done, maybe on a reduced schedule, maybe do it like a World Cup where they maybe play 2 or 3 games a week or something. Do you know what I mean? So I think there are several ways that they could get the season done, probably behind closed doors, and probably with most of the starting 11. For most teams.
And they can actually test everybody.
Right.
If you're tested negative, then you go into a training camp.
Right.
Go into your team's training camp, and you travel, and each team has their training camp where it's
going to be like you'd stay there. You'd stay in that training camp.
Stay right. You'd stay there. You know, so because everyone's paranoid about, oh man, they're doing concentration camps. That was one of our things, right? Concentration camp. Imagine you have training camps for the teams, right? Because I'm sure the players are going stir crazy being at home. So they get tested. They want to play. All the players, we know how much they love football. The coaching staff, they love football. So you test everybody who's going to be involved. And those people who test negative, where they're going to catch it if they're isolated.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And on top of that as well, what they don't really report is that a lot of airports around the world have screening at the airports. You know, I've traveled through Africa during Ebola, and they have systems at the airport. So as people are getting off the planes, they're screening them. They're screening their temperature, and they probably do some blood work as well. So you could have these people pre-tested, right, in the training camp, and before the game, an hour before the game, 2 hours before the game, screen them again, and just, you know, mark off their eligibility. And I think they could do that. I mean,
you think you know, that kind of makes so you think that could be the way to do it, just to get the season completed?
Absolutely. And if a player wanted to opt out for any reason, they could opt out. But I reckon teams could talk to their players, talk to their fans, and I think most teams could probably feel their top 11 probably right now.
Yeah.
The danger would be, though, if they did that and even one player ended up testing positive, wouldn't it? That would be the danger.
So that's why you do the screening beforehand. Screening right. A couple of days before, and then on the day or a week. You know, so you basically test players' eligibility now. Like, do a snapshot, test all the players in the league now. How many players are there? 1,000 and change. Test all the players now. Then obviously you can check them off. If anyone tests positive, obviously you pull them out of the hat, right? Days before the games, and they go to the training center or the ground, or you know, again, treat it like a World Cup. You know, take Newcastle, Wembley, Old Trafford, you know, Emirates, stage the games there, if not at their own grounds, and you just have screening before the games.
And then every player is like in a lockdown situation.
Why not?
Within like you'd have the Olympics, like an Olympic village.
Right.
They'd all be there and they'd be monitored constantly to make sure that they're not picking it up and it's not spreading, and then complete the season.
Why not?
And
there you go. But we don't really suggest that.
Obviously,
we'd have to start it after Arteta gets over. So
no, he's
made a full recovery now.
There you go.
Yeah,
so all right, let's do this.
No one else matters.
We don't wish anything bad on anybody, but you know, we want certain star players to, you know, hey.
Listen, you guys are experts on this. Apart from football, how do we finish? How do we get out of this? But there are a lot of people that are very fearful. You know, I know where you guys are in Atlanta. You're saying it's not as bad for you guys, but New York's quite bad. You've seen Europe, you know, Italy, Spain, France. Here in the UK, bad at the moment. I mean, how does this end?
Again, you know, once the virus is understood fully in its entirety, I mean, as best we can to get, you know, the economy and get, you know, the communities normalcy across the populations, right, to get society back in order or operational. You know, I think, and this is the thing, people have been worried about, oh, it's the government are trying a thing, the government is doing this, you know, they're trying to get us into lockdown and whatever. But we've actually seen the opposite, where governments have been reluctant because the people who put them into power need the economy running. So they have to look after their boys. So you've seen Trump tries to deflect, like, all right, Mike Pence is going to be dealing with this situation. He makes the statements, but then it's like, all right, federal law. Is it going to be a federal act to put everybody on the lockdown? Nope. We're going to leave that to the local states, right? And then the governors of the states, like we're in Georgia, we have Brian Kemp, right? He then deflects it and says, well, I'm not going to put my state under lockdown. I'm going to leave that to the local authorities, the counties. Then the counties say, well, we're going to leave it to the city municipalities. So everyone's passing the buck because nobody wants to be, well, you're the one who killed the economy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the economy needs people working, and it needs people spending. So there's all these stimulus packages that are being initiated. and money being pumped into this and pumped in that, so that people can keep spending. Now, if we knew about the whole toilet paper thing, man would have invested in toilet roll. It's some Procter and Gamble thing,
Yeah.
Their stocks have gone through the roof.
Yeah. I think, Robbie, as well, is that we will pull through this. We will get out of this, right? Even if you look at the raw stats, right? So typically 14 days for the virus to take hold of people who are infected by it, symptomatic or otherwise. So even if we walk through, extend that, double it, we're looking at a month. And in a month, we should know by then, get a very good snapshot of how many people are infected, and those who are not infected, if they've been quarantined, they've stayed at home, they're likely not to be. Then it will be a scrub down, right? It's going to be a matter of, basically disinfecting the country, right? It may sound a bit drastic, but remember, the virus can live on surfaces. It's not always about you contracting it directly from someone else. I may have it on my hands, on my face. I may be asymptomatic, meaning I don't have a fever or anything like that. I'm touching the whole place, touching everywhere. Someone comes in and touches where I've touched within minutes or hours, and they contract it. So it's about safe practices, and that social distancing isn't always just about being able to contract from each other, but how we infect our surroundings as well. So I think in a month or so, I think we'll get a very good snapshot. Definitely schools, right? Schools, if the schools have been empty and they get scrubbed down, the schools are probably going to be safe, right? Then again, maybe they can start doing some home testing kits, start testing children, for example, to see who are infected, who are not, and maybe allowing people who are not infected back into.
Part of what's causing the delay, though, the biggest problem is the testing. Like in the UK, testing was not available. It's not available to Joe Schmo. Plus, it costs money to get tested.
$4,500 here in the States.
If the government in the UK, are they willing to pay for the testing?
Well, they are trying to, at the moment in the UK, they're trying to roll out the testing. So the plan over here is to get like a real easy test that can literally be, they've almost described it like a pregnancy test where you could just test yourself and know. And I think you guys are right. That's going to be the key to it. Once we're able to test and find out, because like you said, a lot of people have actually had it, but it's not really had a detrimental effect on them. Whereas an older person getting it, and what was described to me by one of the friends who got it, how horrific the coughing and that is.
Right.
And that for an old person to cope with is that's where they run into problems with their lungs and stuff like that. That's where maybe a younger person who's stronger, and some of the footballers like you described, they could cope with that, and the Artetas, but an older person, if they get it quite extreme, that's the problem. And so that testing, like you said, is going to be the key.
And one of the key ways to deal with an epidemic or a pandemic is herd immunity, where people who have it and are asymptomatic, they are around each other, and then the community starts to develop this immune to it. You see what I'm saying? The antibodies are already there. So I know part of the paranoia that's out there is, me not get tests because they might inject me with something, right? Or they might lie. They might tell me that I have it and I don't have it, right? That's part of the issue with people not trusting governments. Then there's the whole thing with vaccine of, there's so many people out there saying, with a vaccine, they actually inject you with the virus. Of course they do. That's how vaccines work.
Right.
Live attenuated vaccines are the most popular, and they give you a weakened version of the pathogen in order for your antibodies to develop and put it down. But now
that's why they say when you have the flu jab,
right?
You feel like you've got the flu sometimes.
You're right. You get attenuated flu symptoms, like it's a very mild version of the flu while it goes through. I've never liked vaccines. I've never been a fan of vaccines myself, but it is needed. And when you're a government and you're trying to govern, you have to make decisions that for the best situation for everybody. So even though you might have some people who don't want to do something, maybe they have to for everybody, But when you start dealing with mandatory, mandating things, that's where it can get a bit sticky, where now you have to bring in enforcement. And that's what we're afraid of seeing, is that, right, it's mandatory. Well, I ain't doing it. No, you're gonna have to come get me. You know what I mean? And then people start trying to hide out or whatever, and then people are being pulled from their homes. We don't want to see that. But in a cooperative environment, like we're seeing with the self-isolation, with the social distancing, the community of people around the world are being very compliant. Apart from them 3 men in Punjab who got beaten with the stick.
You know what? And I've got to say, the video that you guys did, and I'm going to put a link in the description, I thought it was brilliant, because the other thing is, you've dispelled a couple of them already. There's all these rumors going around. There's rumors about this, and you don't try that. And honestly, and then I've been tired of getting videos from people.
Oh,
driving me up the wall, some of these videos. You know what I mean? I've had to say to a couple of people, please don't send me them. I don't want to see this rubbish. You know what I mean? But there's so much misinformation out there, isn't there? So much misinformation.
I had to run my brother the other day because he posting stuff. I said, listen, before you post stuff, right? Before you post it, check it out. Make sure you believe it. If you don't even believe it, or you think it's funny, to some people, especially when you're elderly, it's a horror story. It's a living horror story that you're seeing. Look, most people, majority of people with diabetes is black people. Majority of people with high blood pressure is black people. These are conditions that leave you susceptible, at higher risk of fatality or mortality, right? So if you have high blood pressure or you have diabetes, they're letting you know, all right, or pre-existing asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, or something like that, you're at risk. So when people are sending out all these stuff without fact checking first, you can be making somebody paranoid. Absolutely. and initiating a mental episode.
Well, I was gonna touch on that, Robbie. You made a very good point there about a lot of the fake news about the videos and people really raising the bar. We live in a world now where if someone puts out a video with something shocking happening, someone puts out another video with something more shocking. It's getting, we just amp it up. But we've got to spare a thought. Look, we have millions of people literally at home now, isolated. Now, some of these people were isolated before the quarantine, right? Elderly, single people, injured people, and so on and so forth. And as Dr. Amsu was saying, if they have pre-existing conditions, a lot of this information is causing anxiety. Anxiety leads to stress. Now we know stress is the #1 killer. Now we know that stress is at the root of a lot of inflammatory diseases. So a lot of diseases people have, when you really analyze them and sort of do, you review their mental or their health history, you'll find that stress is a very key factor. So now you couple that with them being locked down in their house, and you've got elderly people who are literally not opening the door to their, to their grandkids and stuff because they're fearful of contracting that. So we've got to be mindful of that as well, and that, we're living in a great time, I think, because despite all of the scaremongering Dr. Amsu said, I think we spoke about this before, the self-isolation, right? The self-quarantining, the adherence to a social norm, trying to look out for each other, I think has been amazing. Now, we're saying here in America, for example, there's no mandatory quarantine in Atlanta, for example, but most people are staying home, right? A certain percentage because of fear, but a lot of them because out of courtesy, right? Out of a sense of civility, people are saying, look, I'm not going to endanger myself, but I'm also not going to endanger someone else. You got to pass that through to social media. So you wouldn't infect your neighbor or your grandmother or your kids. Why would you infect them with false information? So as Dr. Amsu is saying, people really need to validate. You should only be listening to the virologist. You should only be listening to the CDC, the World Health Organization, to specialists. You shouldn't be getting, with all due respect, not from Donald Trump, right? Because Donald Trump, when this thing first happened,
or Boris Johnson,
forget about it. He's like, don't worry about it. This is nothing. It's a European thing. That week, pandemic, alarm bells are ringing. We're at DEFCON 5, right? And so you really do need to listen to the experts. But listen, on the mental health thing, stay active, play, enjoy yourselves, talk to people, call your family, call your friends, have those conversations. Now there's a big thing going on, people playing board games over the internet, right? Use your tools, use your IG, your Zoom to have group sessions with friends, right? You've got to stay engaged with people and always, look out for people who have been by themselves, who are isolated. It's really sad now, people are isolated. They may not have some technology. My mum she's got I gave my mum WhatsApp. Worst day of my life, because now she WhatsApp me everything she gets. She comes right. But, you know, all joking aside, it's a great thing because now we can keep in touch, you know, whether she's in Africa or she's in the UK. So listen, spare a thought for people who are out there who may be suffering.
Checking on people, like call them just to hold conversations.
Yeah.
Group texts and whatnot are really good.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps everybody on the same page. When good information is being disseminated, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's the bullshit information. And you know how much in the last week I've seen like 10 videos of the London riots from 2011.
Right.
People trying to say this is what's going on in London. So the first time I looked at it, I'm like, blood clot, what's going on in London?
Kick off in London.
Right. And then it's like, you know, somebody said, no, that's fake news. That's from the UK riots.
Yeah.
But I'm a guy that I'm not forwarding anything till I find out what's going on. What is this for real? You see what I'm saying? But most people just want to forward it on because they want to be relevant.
Right.
And it's those relevant people trying to be relevant, you know, the ones who will post foolishness and get people upset, or, you know, scare people into, you know what, I'm now a full recluse.
Right.
You know, and we don't want that. We want the society to be active as soon as possible. And the whole washing of hands, how important that is because your hands are your tentacles, right? We use our hands for everything, you know, from greeting to whatever, picking things up to throwing things or whatever. Everything that, even when you go to a store, right? People are saying, you know, you don't know if the person who's packing the stuff has, and I don't want to scare nobody. Let me just put the disclaimer. Somebody's out there, the guy you're buying toilet roll, right? And you've bought it, but the guy who packed it, imagine he sneezed on it.
Right.
Now you brought it to your house. The packaging of the toilet roll is got and on plastic it can last days, a week or something like that. You're saying, right? And now it's on there. So washing your hands being better than sanitizing with hand sanitizer.
Can we talk?
Because soap
breaks
up, because the virus itself lives in a lipid envelope. A layer of fat is around it, right? Where all the glycoproteins, the S proteins that is responsible for penetrating the cells. When you wash your hands with soap, the soap itself breaks up lipids. It breaks it apart. So it basically disarms the virus. So when you use soap and warm water, you're killing the virus.
Yeah. Talk about the hand sanitizer, because there's a craze on hand sanitizer. You can't get hand sanitizer now, but what's the problem with hand sanitizer?
Hand sanitizer, they say use, and when I say they, I mean the so-called experts say 60% alcohol, hand sanitizer. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't get to soap and water, this is a last resort, just a temporary thing. But what it does, if you hand sanitize too much, it strips your hand from its protective layers.
Yeah.
Your epidermis from its protective layers. You have good bacteria that protects you. You have also layers of skin that protect you. What happens when you deal with too much hand sanitizer, especially high alcohol, it starts to leave cracks in your skin. Now you're susceptible to pathogens, virus and bacteria. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't catch the virus, you might catch something else that usually your body will be able to deal with, no problem. But
so good old soap
and warm water.
Soap and water.
But do that regularly. Soap and warm water. You know.
Okay. Well, listen. You know what? I could talk to you guys all day long. You're brilliant. As I said, I'm going to put a link to the video that you guys did, because you dispelled a lot. After I watched that just made me say, yeah, I understand it more, and it dispelled a lot of the fake news and rumors and that are out there. And also, I know that you guys do so much more. You've got all your great products and stuff like that you have for various different ailments.
We actually right now have and we're not calling it a vaccine, right? We ain't created a vaccine, but we have a protocol that we've been using every year for cold and flu seasons, for allergy season, and it's an antiviral or respiratory virucide protocol, which is we call RSVP, right? We gave it a nickname RSVP, which helps to protect your cells from viruses. It helps your immune system, because the problem, here's the real problem with the coronavirus is your immune cells, is your own immune system,
Get viruses all the time,
right? So your immune system, when it is attacked by the virus, it goes haywire. It starts going into a fighting frenzy, right? And so your immune cells are controlled by what we call cytokines or cytokines, depending on what side of the pond you're from. These cytokines will recruit more immune cells. And there's two cells in particular, the neutrophils and killer T cells. That neutrophils are known in autoimmune diseases like lupus, like in arthritis, right? They attack you. It attacks your cells, right? And causes inflammation, causes all the tumors and all that kind of stuff, right? All the tumors that people know of. Tumor is just one form of inflammation. Then you have killer T cells, which basically releases an enzyme to tell cells to kill themselves. Under normal circumstances, it's going to tell the virus or pathogen to kill itself, or cells infected by a pathogen to kill themselves. But when they're infected with the coronavirus, they get confused, and then they start telling healthy cells to commit suicide, what we call cellular apoptosis, right? Tell them to kill themselves. Now, in your lungs, when you're healthy, what we call epithelial cells, which is the lining, the protective border around cells of organs and tissues, right? When that becomes depleted because they've been told to kill themselves, now you're open for infection. That's why there's the pneumonia. Because normally these epithelial cells will protect you from everyday bacteria, right? That your body can cope with normally. But when you don't have this protective layer, now your organs, systems, and tissues are breached by bacteria. That's when mucus, pus, fluids start to build up and people catch pneumonia. Then people can become septic when normal cells, other places around the body, become compromised. So your immune system is very important.
It's key to this whole thing.
And the type of immune cells that are activated is also important. So we have a formula where the immune cells that are activated are the ones that do not cause inflammation. So it's about protecting yourself, making your cells, impervious to being breached by a virus, but also to activate cells that will attack the virus in the blood or wherever they are. Because there's contact that you might test positive for the virus. It doesn't mean that you're infected with the virus. Testing positive doesn't mean that you're infected. Infection only happens when your cells become infected, and they then proliferate, multiply the virus within themselves, and then die, releasing all these new viruses into the body. So contact or testing positive doesn't mean you're infected. Infection is where you see symptoms.
Wow. I could talk to these guys all day long. I want to go medical school after talking to you.
And I just want to big up Cuba, because Cuba,
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Cuba, not only does Cuba allow you to study medicine for free.
Anybody.
From wherever you are in the world. So if you say, I want to study some medicine, I'm going to take a few years and study some medicine, you can go Cuba for free.
Yeah, well, I miss the football, man.
I don't know, man.
They some baseball.
Yeah.
But Cuba has a team.
But they have teams flying all over the world.
Around the world.
There's actually a load of Cuban doctors in Spain.
Right.
Exactly. It's the same. Yeah.
In Jamaica as well.
Right.
In yard, them did there.
Absolutely. So
before you guys go, let me ask you this, right? If the season does resume, which we all hope it does, can Arsenal get into that top 4 or 5?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Top 4, because as we all know, Tottenham shit, right? So there you go. They're out of the way. Chelsea's touch and go. Wolves might be a problem though. Wolves might be a problem.
United coming on strong as well.
Yeah.
Wolves,
So,
Man United, Leicester.
I don't even know about Man United.
Well, the thing is, you know,
Man
they still get the Fergie law.
Nah.
They still get Fergie time. You know, the pass on to Ollie time now. And you know, let's face it, he's turned it around a little bit at Old Trafford, and they're starting to see some results. The Pogba thing is kind of mute now because whether he stays or goes is irrelevant. But you know, they bought the Fred kid, and they're getting results. And remember, it's just 3 points. You know, so it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a tight one.
I think we're going to do it. I think we'll do it though.
Okay, well, let's hope we do it. Listen, thank you very much once again for coming on, both of you. It's been absolutely brilliant. Don't forget to check these guys out. Tell them about your channel again.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's Electric Docs TV on YouTube. It's just how it sounds, Electric Docs TV on YouTube. But our website is theelectricdocs.com. www.theelectricdocs.com. You go
/coronavirus for the video.
/ what
you're talking about,
and you can see the video. And I think you're going to post another link about that, Robbie.
That video in the description as well. And thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Big up, Robbie.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. Stay safe over here in the States. Hope to see you guys again soon. If I ever get back out there with this thing going on.
Yeah.
You know what? Listening to you guys, you know, you reassure me that, you know, there is going to be a way through this, you know, and like you said, there's lots of brilliant scientists, doctors, nurses, lots of people in the medical profession working hard around the world to get this, you know, under control and to get, antiviral to it and to get us back to work and get us back to doing the things that we love, like watching football and going out to a restaurant and all those things that we took for granted before. I think now when they do return, we're really going to appreciate them. Thank you very much.
All right, Robbie, big up, man. Every time.
Always, mate.
Peace.
Not West.
Brilliant, man.
The coronavirus has not just affected the world of football, but has affected everybody. But you know what? We can defeat it. There are some steps we can take. Number one, always make sure you wash your hands thoroughly. Number two, if you cough or sneeze, make sure you catch it in a tissue and dispose of it afterwards. And number three, if you're displaying any of the symptoms, always make sure that you self-isolate. I know it's a terrible time, but we will defeat the coronavirus. We will be back.